What if the foods you trusted the most, like organic oats, canned soup, dark chocolate, were rejected by Europe for being unsafe, yet it is still quietly lining shelves across America? In 2025, the European Union tightened food safety regulations with unprecedented force, banning dozens of additives, contaminants, and chemicals deemed too toxic for consumption. From cancer-linked phosphates in chicken nuggets to heavy metals in chocolate, these aren't rare cases, but ingredients that would now trigger a recall overseas. But in the US, they're still considered legal and they're still being sold. How is this possible? And more importantly, why aren't American consumers being told the full truth? This isn't about rare scandals. It's about systemic silence. New lab tests from Consumer Reports, Clean Food America, and the European Food Safety Authority in 2024 and 2025 have revealed a growing list of Aldi brand products that failed European safety tests but remain in circulation here, hidden behind trusted labels and value prices. This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. And today, we're exposing 7 Aldi products that would be banned in Europe but are still in your cart. Number 1. Imported frozen shrimp. You wouldn't expect a freezer bag to hide a scandal, but when shrimp that failed European safety tests start popping up in American shopping carts, unlabeled, uninspected, and dirt cheap, it's no longer just dinner. It's deception dressed up as a discount. At Aldi, frozen shrimp under house brands like Fremont Fish Market and Sea Queen offer a siren song to stretched budgets. Under $5 a pound, pre-cooked, responsibly sourced, and promising convenience in minutes. To a retiree juggling bills, it feels like a rare win. Seafood without the price tag of a steakhouse. But as it turns out, that win comes with a bitter aftertaste. In April 2025, the European Center for Food Fraud flagged shrimp exported from Bangladesh and Vietnam for containing nitrofurans and oxytetracycline, antibiotics outlawed in the EU since the mid-90s due to their link to kidney damage, liver toxicity, and cancer. European borders slammed shut, but the US with its notoriously loose inspection net, checking less than 2% of seafood imports, welcomed them in like old friends. Here's the punch to the gut. Shipping logs show those very same shrimp ended up in the US market, routed through Aldi's suppliers. And that's not the end of the rot. The Outlaw Ocean Project uncovered evidence that some of these shrimp came from facilities using forced labor, including children. So we're not just eating what Europe rejected. We're also unknowingly consuming the product of exploitation. And thanks to a legal loophole, once these shrimp undergo minimal processing in the US, they can be rebranded as product of USA, giving shoppers a false sense of safety wrapped in a stars and stripes label. Imagine thinking you're buying American while biting into a chemical cocktail raised in foreign ponds and peeled in sweatshop warehouses. To Aldi's credit, the grocery battlefield is brutal. When chains like Walmart and Costco are racing to undercut each other, corners get shaved and ethics can become optional. Aldi may not always be aware of what happens upstream, but that doesn't shield shoppers from the consequences. So what can we do when the cheapest thing on the shelf might also be the most dangerous? First, opt for wild American shrimp or US-sourced Gulf shrimp, especially those with MSC or BAP certifications that trace the product back to its source. H-E-B and Thrive Market are good bets if you want clearer labeling and accountability. Better yet, buy frozen in bulk from local seafood co-ops, portion it out at home, and avoid the factory pipeline altogether. A little prep goes a long way toward peace of mind. In the end, it's not just about what we can afford, it's about what they think we won't notice. And if Europe said, "not in our house," why should we settle for their leftovers? Number 2. Mama Kazi frozen pizza. They say comfort food should bring peace of mind, but what happens when the pizza you trust is built on loopholes and loaded with chemicals banned in half the developed world? Mama Cozy's frozen pizzas at Aldi have built their empire on late-night cravings, tired parents, and retired folks seeking a break from the stove. Topped with cheese, meat, and the promise of oven-ready in minutes, it's like having an Italian aunt who cuts corners but means well, until you realize what's been hiding under the crust. In early 2025, Food Safety Europe released a bombshell list of frozen products rejected at EU borders. One of the most flagged ingredients? Potassium bromate, a flour treatment chemical outlawed across the entire European Union, Canada, and large parts of Asia. This isn't some new controversy. It's been banned in Europe since 1990 due to strong links in lab animals to thyroid, gastrointestinal, and kidney cancers. Yet right here in the US, it's still perfectly legal, and lab tests from Food Chain Journal found it present in Mama Cosie's rising crust and extra chewy base pizzas sold at Aldi. And that's just the crust. The real kicker comes from the toppings. BHA, short for butylated hydroxyanisole, was also detected in certain varieties of Mama Cosie, particularly those smothered in processed meats and cheese-like shreds. BHA is a synthetic preservative that helps shelf-stable foods stay fresh longer. But according to the International Agency for Research on Cancer, as of 2025, BHA is now officially labeled as possibly carcinogenic to humans. In the EU, it's banned outright. But in the US, still approved, still unlabeled, still quietly baked into your Friday night dinner. How does it end up on your plate without warning? Because American law allows these chemicals to sneak in under the guise of processing aids. They don't have to be listed if they're considered incidental, meaning the package you're reading doesn't tell the whole story. And since Aldi uses a private label model, Mama Cosie pizzas may come from totally different factories depending on the region. One in Ohio, one in California, each with different practices, but the same smiling label on the front. We're looking at a two-speed food system, one where Europe bans the ingredients, and another where America quietly sells them on end caps for $4.99. It's not that Aldi is breaking the law. They're playing by the rules written to protect corporations, not consumers. And when those rules allow ingredients tied to cancer to enter low-income homes unchecked, the price is more than monetary. So if you're craving pizza without the chemical baggage, look into frozen brands like Amy's Kitchen, which avoids EU-banned additives and favors organic ingredients. Or buy plain frozen dough at stores like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. Add fresh mozzarella and top it off with nitrate-free meats or vegetables. It takes a little more time, sure, but you'll know exactly what went into every bite. Or let's be honest, if the European Union won't let this pizza near its borders, what does it say about what we've allowed onto our dinner plates? Number 3. Elevation protein bars. It's amazing how a shiny wrapper and the word protein can turn candy into something that feels virtuous. Aldi's Elevation by Millville protein bars are marketed like a clean energy ticket. Low sugar, high protein, perfect for anyone hoping to dodge the candy aisle guilt trip. For older shoppers juggling blood sugar levels or looking for something easy on the go, it sounds like a smart choice, almost like a doctor's approval baked into every bite. But peel back that wrapper and the health upgrade starts looking more like a bait and switch. In March of 2025, Consumer Food Defense Europe shook things up with independent lab tests that found ingredients lurking inside some US protein bars, including Aldi's Elevation line, that the European Union won't even allow near its shelves. The main offenders? Sucralose and acetylsulfame potassium, better known as acetylsulfame K. Both are artificial sweeteners designed to pack sweetness without calories. In America, they're given the FDA's green light. But across the Atlantic, EFSA studies have flagged them for possible endocrine disruption, microbiome imbalance, and even genotoxicity. Yes, the potential to damage DNA. Think about that. Something banned for the health of European citizens is being pitched to American retirees as clean fuel. And that's just the first crack in the glossy image. Testing also found propylene glycol, a chemical that doubles as a solvent and moisture preserver, commonly used in antifreeze. While US regulators still classify it as generally recognized as safe, Europe imposes strict limits on it, especially in foods designed for kids or frequent consumption. A 2024 study in Toxicology Today warned that ongoing intake of propylene glycol can strain kidneys over time. For older adults already dealing with blood pressure pills and prescription lists, that's a risk hiding in plain sight. So why does Aldi keep selling these bars? Because the US playbook hasn't been updated. While Europe tightened its toxicology rules last year, American standards lag behind. Aldi isn't breaking any law. They're simply capitalizing on what's legal and cheap. Sucralose is hundreds of times sweeter than sugar, meaning manufacturers can use microscopic amounts to cut costs. Combine that with synthetic binders and preservatives, and Aldi can sell a 6-pack of bars for half the price of a clean competitor, while still claiming low sugar like it's a badge of honor. But legality doesn't mean safety, and it definitely doesn't mean honesty. The gap between what's on the label and what's in the bar is like the gap between a glossy commercial and the truth behind the scenes. If you're looking for something better, try RX Bar, Larabar, or Kind, brands that stick to real ingredients like dates, nuts, and honey, with nothing that would get banned in Brussels. Or go one step further. Mix oats, peanut butter, honey, chia seeds, and a sprinkle of dark chocolate chips. Press them into a tray and chill. 5 minutes of prep for a snack your body actually recognizes as food. So the next time you reach for an elevation bar, ask yourself, if Europe doesn't trust these sweeteners for their own children, why should we trust them for our seniors? And is a cheap dose of protein worth gambling your health on? Number 4. Canned vegetables and soups. Sometimes it's the quietest food on the shelf that hides the loudest warning. Walk into any Aldi and you'll see them lined up like soldiers. Chef's cupboard soups, Simply Nature beans, canned corn, tomatoes, lentils, all under $1. A godsend for anyone cooking big batches on a small check. The labels whisper words like non-GMO, organic, and no artificial preservatives. It feels like safety in a can, but what they don't print on the label may be exactly what your body should have known. In a world moving away from toxic packaging, Aldi US is dragging its feet. Beneath those seemingly wholesome labels, many of their canned goods still rely on linings that contain bisphenol A, BPA, the same BPA that's been linked to hormone disruption, developmental issues, and increased cancer risk. And this isn't fringe science. In 2024, the European Food Safety Authority dropped a bombshell. They slashed the allowable BPA exposure level by a factor of 20,000. Yes, 20,000. That effectively banned BPA in nearly all food contact materials across Europe. By 2025, enforcement kicked in, with over 40 canned food brands banned across EU borders. Several of those were traced back to US suppliers, some of whom also provide canned products directly to Aldi's American shelves. So what about Aldi in the US? According to tests by the Consumer Packaging Watchdog Alliance in March 2025, multiple Aldi canned items, like Chef's Cupboard chicken noodle soup and Simply Nature organic black beans, contained BPA levels far above the EU safety limit. Yet those same products still pass under the outdated radar of US food regulations. So legally, Aldi's in the clear, but ethically, that's a different can of soup entirely. And here's the twist that hits home. BPA leaches faster when heated, so when you microwave that can of soup, just like the label says you can, you might be dosing your meal with hormone-disrupting chemicals, all in the name of convenience. So why hasn't Aldi made the switch to BPA-free linings like other grocers have? It boils down to money. Using safer, BPA-free epoxy resins can cost up to 15% more per can. In Aldi's razor-thin pricing world, that adds up quickly. But it's cheaper to maintain the illusion of safety than to actually invest in it, especially when consumers assume organic on the label means everything inside, including the packaging, is clean too. If you're looking to cut your BPA exposure, consider brands like Eden Foods, Amy's Kitchen, or Whole Foods 365, which clearly label BPA-free packaging. Better yet, stock up on dried beans, cook in bulk, and freeze what you don't eat. Use glass jars when available, and avoid reheating food in cans altogether. These simple habits don't just stretch your grocery budget, they protect your health in the long run. Because when an entire continent says, this isn't safe anymore, how long will we pretend the can in our pantry is somehow different? And what else have we trusted simply because it was cheap, sealed, and easy? Number 5. Kirkwood chicken nuggets. They look innocent enough, bite-sized, crispy, and golden brown. Kirkwood chicken nuggets from Aldi are the go-to frozen comfort for anyone craving fast food without the drive-thru. They're cheap, fast, and familiar. Under $4 a bag, microwave-friendly, and stamped with claims like white meat only and no artificial flavors, they promise trust in a plastic pouch. Especially for grandparents stocking the freezer for weekend visits or busy adults looking for a no-fuss dinner, it feels like a small win, until you dig into the ingredient list and realize that the real shortcut might be to your health. In February 2025, the European Food Safety Authority issued a final ruling that sent shockwaves through the processed meat industry. Phosphate-based additives, including sodium, phosphate, potassium phosphate, and calcium phosphate, were officially banned in processed poultry. Why? Because after years of study, the EFSA determined that long-term consumption of even small amounts can increase the risk of kidney strain, bone mineral loss, and cardiovascular damage, especially in vulnerable populations like seniors and children. It's not just theory, it's policy, but across the ocean, those same additives are still perfectly legal in the US. and they're hiding in plain sight on Kirkwood's label. In April 2025, Food Clean America tested these nuggets and found that just one serving delivered over 40% of the EFSA's daily phosphate limit. And let's be clear, that phosphate wasn't naturally part of the chicken. It was artificially pumped in to make the meat stay moist, plump, and juicy through months of freezing. And because these phosphates are tucked into seasoning blends and modified starches, they rarely appear as obvious red flags, just more invisible hazards buried under harmless-sounding names. So let's call this what it is: a bait and switch for America's most at-risk eaters. If you're managing kidney disease, osteoporosis, or a heart condition, which describes a huge share of older Americans, these nuggets might be doing silent harm. Heating them up in an air fryer won't make a difference. And the scary part? You'd never know unless you read a European toxicology bulletin. Still, it's not just Aldi that deserves scrutiny. The fault lies in a system where US food safety laws are painfully outdated, where the science can scream and regulators still yawn. Aldi isn't breaking any law by selling phosphate-laden nuggets, but when safer alternatives exist and science is knocking at the door, isn't following the rules just another way of avoiding responsibility? If you want a safer fix for your nugget cravings, try Applegate Naturals, which avoids phosphate additives and labels ingredients clearly, or whip up your own at home. Ground chicken, whole grain breadcrumbs, a few spices, freeze them, and you've got a batch of better bites ready to go. It might take 10 minutes more, but your kidneys won't have to pay the price, because once you learn these nuggets would be illegal in Europe, convenient starts sounding a whole lot like reckless. So ask yourself, how many more freezer staples are serving us shortcuts while cutting away at our health behind the scenes? Number 6, Millville breakfast cereal. They're bright, they're crunchy, they cost less than a gas station coffee. Millville breakfast cereals from Aldi are the ultimate breakfast shortcut, especially for grandparents caring for kids or older folks who want something fast and familiar. Whether it's Frosted Flakes, knockoffs, or cocoa-dusted puffed rice, these boxes scream affordability. Under $2, sweet, crunchy, no mess. Sounds harmless, right? Except if that same cereal showed up in a French supermarket, it'd be pulled off the shelves before you could say bon appetit. Since 2024, the European Union has either banned or tightly restricted several artificial food dyes that still appear front and center in Millville cereals sold in the US, namely Red 40, Yellow 5, and Blue 1. The reason? These colorants aren't just fun. They've been linked to hyperactivity in children, behavioral problems, and possibly even cancer. The European Food Safety Authority reinforced these risks in its 2025 update to the Annex II Food Additives Regulation. In Europe, these dyes are out. In the US, they're still sprinkled into breakfast like rainbow confetti. But that's not where the trouble ends. Millville cereals also contain BHT, short for butylated hydroxytoluene, a synthetic preservative used to extend shelf life. In the EU, BHT is banned in cereals and many snacks due to potential connections to cancer and hormone disruption. The FDA, however, has yet to catch up. Despite multiple petitions, BHT remains legal in American cereals. And Aldi, eager to keep costs low and shelf life high, still includes it, discreetly mentioned on the label in tiny print you'd need reading glasses to catch. Clean food. America ran independent lab tests in January 2025 and confirmed what many had feared. Several Millville cereals sold at Aldi contain both artificial dyes and BHT in amounts that would be illegal in France, Norway, Austria, or the UK. So why are they still here? Because in the US, the standard isn't safe enough for the most vulnerable. It's won't kill you right away. If it sells and it doesn't spark a public health scandal, it stays. And Aldi, with its budget-first strategy, has every incentive to rely on cheap, artificial ingredients to match the look and taste of brand-name competitors at half the price. But here's the bitter truth. If your grandkids are bouncing off the walls, or you're dealing with headaches, mood swings, or unexplained fatigue, the problem might not be in your medicine cabinet. It could be in the cereal bowl. Want a cleaner start to your day? Try brands like Barber's Puffins, Nature's Path, or 3 Wishes. These options skip the dyes, ditch the BHT, and stick to whole, recognizable ingredients. Or go old school with oatmeal, fresh fruit, and a dash of cinnamon. It's warm, filling, and won't light up your endocrine system like a holiday parade. Because once you realize that Europe rejected these ingredients over a decade ago, you have to ask, why are we still feeding them to American kids every morning? And at what point does affordable stop being worth the hidden cost? Number 7. Simply nature organic products. There was a time when organic meant something. No poisons, no residue, just real food, grown clean, harvested clean, eaten with peace of mind. That's the image Aldi's Simply Nature. Line cells with every green leaf stamped on a box. USDA organic badges flash like scout medals. Oats, baby food, applesauce, granola, even toddler puffs, all whispering promises of purity. And for families watching every dollar but still trying to eat right, it feels like someone finally threw them a rope. But that rope? It might just be plastic in disguise. In February 2025, independent testing from the Clean Label Project uncovered traces of glyphosate, the infamous weed killer known commercially as Roundup, in multiple Simply Nature products. We're talking oats, dried fruits, even crackers labeled organic. Glyphosate is a pesticide so controversial, the European Union has banned its use in organic farming outright. Studies link it to cancer, hormone disruption, and gut damage. But in the US, that same chemical gets a hall pass. As long as contamination is labeled accidental or drift, you can still get the USDA organic seal. Let that sink in. A food grown near glyphosate use, with residue detectable in every bite, can still legally be called organic. One Simply Nature batch of oats clocked in at 29 parts per billion of glyphosate. That's 29 times more than what's allowed in Europe, where the limit is 0. Yet that product sat on Aldi's shelves across America with no warning, no disclosure, just the same confident organic label slapped on the front. And because USDA certification often relies on self-reporting and third-party certifiers, even clear contamination doesn't guarantee a recall. It just quietly continues, unless someone blows the whistle or a courtroom forces change. But there's more. A leaked audit from Organic Consumers Report in 2024 revealed that some of Aldi's overseas suppliers for Simply Nature, particularly in Turkey and India, were caught submitting forged organic certifications. These are the same suppliers Aldi still imported from as recently as January 2025. So what looks like organic spinach on your plate might be the product of forged paperwork and global loopholes. Now ask yourself, if that's what's behind the green leaf logo, what exactly are we buying? Because organic in the US doesn't mean the same thing it does in Europe, not by a long shot. To be fair, Aldi is navigating a broken system. The US organic standard is riddled with loopholes, and budget stores simply play within those lines. Can we fault families for trusting a label? Can we blame a retiree for thinking USDA organic means safe? But if you want more control over your food, consider this. Support local farms you can visit. Shop co-ops that share soil and pesticide data. Use barcode apps like the Organic Eye or EWG's food scores to catch red flags. And when on a budget, frozen organic fruits and veggies from companies like Cascadian Farm often go through stricter testing than anything in a dry goods aisle. Because when the word organic becomes a marketing tool instead of a guarantee, we're no longer just misled, we're betrayed. And if even organic can lie, what's left to believe on the label? Number 8. Chocolate bars. Chocolate is supposed to be a small joy, a little square of calm at the end of a stressful day, a reward for getting through the doctor's appointment or just making it through another Monday. That's why Aldi's European-style chocolate bars, especially Chaussure and Moser Roth, have quietly won over older Americans. They look elegant, taste rich, and cost a fraction of what you'd pay at fancy grocery stores. Made in Germany. European cocoa. Smooth, sleek wrappers that whisper luxury without screaming price. But when it comes to what's actually inside some of those bars, the story turns bitter. And dangerously so. In 2024, Consumer Reports dropped a quiet bombshell. An independent investigation into heavy metals and dark chocolate sold across the US. Among the offenders, multiple bars from Aldi's Moser Roth and Chaussure lines tested above California's maximum allowable daily limits for both lead and cadmium. And these weren't trace anomalies. They were levels that would be flat out illegal under the European Union's strict food safety regulations. Let that sink in. The chocolate we're handing out to our grandkids, sneaking after dinner, or using as a way to reward ourselves for staying healthy, might be silently dosing us with metals that damage our hearts, our kidneys, and our nervous systems. Lead exposure in older adults, even at low levels, can accelerate cognitive decline and raise blood pressure. Cadmium, meanwhile, builds up over time in the body, damaging bones, weakening the kidneys, and interfering with hormones, especially dangerous for those already managing chronic health issues. And here's the harsh truth. Europe knows this. They've set strict cadmium limits for dark chocolate, especially from high-risk cocoa regions like West Africa and Latin America, but Aldi hasn't changed sourcing practices. Import records from 2025, reviewed by Food Risk Tracker, confirm that Aldi still sources from these same regions, using suppliers with no advanced refinement techniques to reduce metal content. Why? Because no one's forcing them not to. The FDA hasn't updated its guidance. California's Proposition 65 is not a federal mandate, and so the bars stay on the shelves. Legal? Yes. Safe for daily consumption by older adults? That's another question entirely. Aldi isn't doing this on purpose. The root of the problem lies in a global cocoa supply chain riddled with contaminated soil and minimal oversight. But Aldi has made the calculated decision to keep their prices low by using cheaper, unrefined cocoa, passing the unseen risk to loyal customers. If you want to keep enjoying chocolate without the side of metals, look for brands that actively publish heavy metal test results. Alter Eco, Who Chocolate, and Tony's Choc Only are great places to start, or opt for milk chocolate instead of dark. Less cocoa means lower metal risk. Even better, enjoy it occasionally, not daily. Make it special again. Because when even your chocolate bar comes with a hidden health cost, you have to ask, how much trust have we handed over to pretty packaging? And how long until we start reading every label like it's a medical report instead of just a sweet escape? If even organic and chocolate come with hidden dangers, what else are we eating in blind trust? It's time we question every label, every promise, and every price that feels too good to be true. Subscribe now. We'll keep exposing what they don't want you to know. Your health deserves truth.
Thanks so much for sticking with us to the very end. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our daily updates. And now feel free to check out some of our latest and most popular videos showing up on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.